No. Rhodri.
Is there anything that Lionel Messi is better than you at?
It's opinions. I respect your opinions. Maybe in your opinion Messi is better than me, but in my mind I'm better than him.
I do it again.
Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what. Told her if it's all me, everything is on me, gon' back it up. Matter what. Told you I'ma do me, why you hating on me, it's not adding up. I do roll like a Mack truck, country heart, I'ma cop a farm and go act up. Lot of scars, I was cold-hearted, now I'm back up. Keep it real, I do this once a month, I don't rap much. I just hit the money and go stack up. Only buy Cup Carabo till you tatted up. All that other bull, it don't matter much. You only climb me, I put the ladders up. No fault, I done doubled up on the workload. I think I fell in love with the bankroll. Pray up, get money, then we lay low. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what. Add it up,
Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation. Welcome to Rhodri Giggs on football without Rhodri Giggs. Unfortunately, Rhodri has got a flat tire and he is stuck on the side of the road currently. Not much we can do about that, but he's hoping to join us. I've also contacted a couple of different people to join us, and we'll have a little chat about football. There is lots to discuss. We're going to talk Gareth Bale after his retirement, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, transfers, Chelsea buying everybody in the world at the moment, it seems like. So there's lots to discuss. As always, get your comments in, stuff like that. It helps, get the questions, keep us moving, all the rest of it. It's one of them, really, mate. Boys and girls, it's just me, so we gotta go with the flow, as it were. But it's 2023. We're back, and going to be rejigging a few things over the coming weeks, so do keep a lookout for that. Also, I got a new sponsor, which we'll talk about in a bit, which I'm very excited about because I love it. It is incredible stuff. So if you're a coffee drinker, then I highly recommend you tune in for that. We'll do a Super 6 update as well in just a second, as we wait for some of the late covers and the stragglers to join us. We do a charity Super 6 prediction league. There's myself and Rhodri, and there's all sorts of ex-footballers and ex-Cardiff City legends who join in as well. You can test your football knowledge against them by making your predictions. The last time I think we looked, I was well ahead of Rhodri, like 20-odd points. So we'll see how that's developed in just a second. But, as always, look, if you've got questions, get them in. Want to talk about a particular subject, send it in the comments. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all that stuff, and we'll get stuck into them. Just because Rhodri's not here at the moment, it'll be no less brutally honest as always. Although last week my mood was very much spoiled by the fact that I had to talk about Cardiff and that kind of whole situation of being linked with the Neil Warner coming back. That really kind of upset me, and also the way they had been playing and that. We'll talk about Cardiff and Leeds a little bit later on. That was encouraging. I thought that was good to see. I thought we played some good stuff. Great to see Isaac Davis back as well. And I stand by what I said. I think that if you give Mark Hudson time, I think eventually he can get it right. I think he's got the defense playing pretty well. I think we just need to make some tweaks really in terms of the attacking stuff. And then I think there's some promising signs that, of course, there's some issues as well. Like I do think the scoring goals and that side of things is problematic, obviously, but there's things that I think he's doing well at the moment. obviously Cardiff paid the first instalment towards Emiliano Sala as well. That's kind of long overdue. We'll talk about that as well if we like. I'm happy to talk about anyone, but the Super Six was rough this week. Like, it was hard, but I also think that, you know, those difficult weeks, when no one does well, it's all right. I think, you know, we can kind of deal with that, and we did. We'll talk about that now. Let me just set this up and then we'll go. That's not working. Right, that's always handy. So, get your questions in. Yeah, Reese, it is at the moment. I think it'll probably stay that way as well. I'm kind of like, I'm thinking about different things to do and different ways to take things forward and change things up a little bit. But this will probably be free, I think, now on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and stuff every Thursday, as you know, mate. So I think that's the plan. But we will obviously we'll see how it goes and see how it develops. But certainly for the time being, it is back on just the normal Facebook and stuff, and then we'll go from there. Yeah, Craig, you are right, mate. Super Six was problematic this week. So on that note, we'll do the old Super Six update. I think only 3 people. Let me just bring it up because Will sent it to me earlier. Let's have a look. Super Six update. Last week was the FA Cup with a few upsets. We scored a very low scoring round. Only 3 people scored double figures. So it's a joint win for Sue Coleman, John Morgan, and ex-Cardiff City legend, my good friend, Mr. Willie Boland, all on 11 points. Myself and Rhodri did not have a productive week. Rhodri had a whopping 4 points. Unfortunately, I only got 2, which means that I still have an overall lead of 21 points. So there we go. That is beautiful, beautiful to see. I'm sure we'll have some people. I'm hoping. I've asked a couple of people to join, some new, some old, but obviously it was very late notice. Rhodri went over a pothole, so it is what it is. You know, it is what it is. We'll see how we go, because obviously I would prefer we could talk to Rhodri and we could get stuck into some of these subjects, especially I think there's lots to discuss. Like, there's lots going on. Man City, the serial holders of the Carabao Cup, out. You've got FA Cup shocks and upsets and replays. Cardiff were 2-0 up. I saw some people moaning about that, and they were like, "Oh, we're 2-0 up and we lost Hudson out." And it's like, you're 2-0 up, 2-0 up to a Premier League team, and you've got to expect the Premier League team to come back. I thought Cardiff played pretty well. Was it amazing? You know, were they the best? No, but compared to what it's been recently, I thought it was phenomenal, because we've been shower of shit. And it was very, very good to see Isaac Davis back up. Really was loving that. And I think I thought he made it. I thought he had a pretty good game. And I think when it comes down to it, these types of players are the ones which can make a difference long term as well. You know, Ruben Corwell, I've seen a few people kind of almost writing him off. Like, he's a very young player, hasn't really had a massive long run in the team. So I think that takes time. You know, you've got these young players, they're always going to be a bit up and down. And I think the way you get the best out of them is you give them a few starts, first and foremost, and you bring them on like now and again. Like, look at the way, for instance, Rhodri's team United are using Garnacho. He starts a couple against, you know, in the winnable games, and then goes back, you know, comes off the bench and makes an impact, because he's got that experience of playing with the players and the team, but also, you know, he's not being run to death because he's their hope to win the football match. So look, I think Mark Hudson's got a big job on his hand, and I think anyone who's just expected him to walk in and with the squad he's got and, you know, get promoted or whatever, or be up there, I think he's probably kidding themselves. But on the other hand, Cardiff probably should be better than where they are now. Of course they should. But I wanted to start with we'll talk Gareth Bale, mate. Mates, boys and girls. Retired this week from football overall, not just international football. I think we all kind of expected him to retire from international football. It was just whether he was going to carry on at club level. I kind of assumed he was going to retire, but you never know. Like players are going to make their own decisions. What I would say is, I asked the question when I was posting on social media earlier: is Gareth Bale the greatest Welsh player of all time? Absolutely, yes. I don't think it's even like a real question. Like, I think it's absolute nailed on. Well, I'm going to ask a question to you guys. Do you think Gareth Bale is the greatest British player of all time? Like, won it all at club level, got Wales to the World Cup, got Wales to the Euros, performed at the Euros, certainly. Some massive moments for Wales in terms of like when they really needed him. Last minute goals, free kicks, headers, anything, like the Scotland game, the Ukraine game, like these big moments where you needed him to stand up. Even as he was getting older and he didn't have the legs, he would still come up with something special just to drag us through. And I think Gareth Bale epitomizes the change in Welsh football over the last 10 years in terms of the relationship with the fans, the way the FAW sort of conducts themselves and interacts with the fans, treats the fans. I think he's a big part of that as a focal point, but also as who he is. I think his time at Real Madrid is massively underrated. He won everything from, there was one of the Champions Leagues he won. It was almost like single-handedly just something special. He done it a couple of times in the Champions League final, in fairness. He scored that overhead kick, didn't he? But he also scored that one. The goal I was thinking of was the one he kind of picks it up on halfway on the wing and he runs and the player tries to foul him and he literally takes him like a couple of yards off the pitch and he just puts the turbo boosters on, runs around and scores. And in my opinion, I think he's in the conversation for the greatest British player of all time. I don't know whether I would say he is, because there's plenty of players over the years, even someone like Ryan Giggs. I think you cannot ignore what the man's done on a football pitch and with his career. But unfortunately, things after that have kind of soured people on him, like previous to his off the field problems. I think he would have been most people's choice simply because of his career, everything he won. It was special. So there's lots of that. Also, I think in terms of the greatest British player of all time, I think, and I stand by this, I said this a few weeks back, probably around the World Cup time, was like when you look back and you look at Messi and Ronaldo, in my opinion, there's been a few players who've kind of got a bit of momentum and then you start thinking, are they going to break the cycle? So those players would be, there was a couple of years of Griezmann when he was at Atletico Madrid first time round. People thought he was really pushing hard. He was excellent for a couple of seasons. Who else was there? Neymar, maybe once or twice. I don't think he was really ever in that conversation, but some people did think he was when he was at Barca. But Messi and Ronaldo was so far ahead of everybody else that it was like no one was even in the same stratosphere as them. In my opinion, Gareth Bale's the only one across the whole of Europe who ever came close to matching their stats, their performances, their consistency. And people will point to his injury record at Madrid, but actually, if you look at his injury record, it isn't as bad as what people make out. And I think, look, there was times when it wasn't great, and I think there was probably times where he played for Wales when he shouldn't have. because he had been injured for Madrid and stuff like that. So it was difficult. It was difficult. But for me, Gareth Bale is up there. I'm going to be joined in just a second by Mr. Robert Boyle. He's going to come and join me. He's going to give me his opinion on Gareth Bale. Great. Is he the greatest Welsh player of all time? Is he the greatest British player of all time? I obviously want you guys to chip in as well. Bear with me a second as I bring in the Boylemeister, who's just come and join me quickly, like at the last minute, because Rodders has got a puncture. So let's find Robert. Let's skip through all the co-hosts until we find Robert. Reese, Robert, there he is. Robert Boyle.
Hello.
Jesus, you're loud. Happy New Year. How are you?
Happy New Year, mate. I'm wicked. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I haven't spoken to you for ages.
I know, it's been a while, man. Been a busy bee. A lot of stuff going on, but all good.
So we're talking about Gareth Bale, mate. Gareth Bale. Is he the greatest Welsh player of all time?
I don't see any other argument where else it could be.
So I just was talking about the greatest British player of all time. But I want to hear your thoughts on who possibly runs in close for the greatest Welsh player of all time.
Are we just talking from an international point of view, or
just greatest Welsh players of all time? Like, who do you think, is possibly in the conversation alongside Gareth Bale?
Taking out Welsh appearances and things like that.
Vinnie Jones obviously is hands down the best Welsh player of all time.
No, I think if you bloody dog, shut up. It pains me to say it in a way, but I think if you're going to talk about non-international related, I think Giggs would run in close, purely because of what he achieved at club level. Clearly he didn't obviously achieve nowhere near as what Bale did on an international stage, but the guy, won 15 titles at United.
Yeah, it's stupid. He won everything, but then Gareth Bale won everything, mate.
Well, that's it. I'd still take Bale over him, but I think he's the only one who's close. In the modern era, anyway. I'm only 34 years of age. Some may argue Toshak and beyond with that, but I'm going on based on my era, if you like. You look at my time, it's your Bale, Bellamy, Speed. He's
Ramsey.
Ramsey, they got him in Rob Earnshaw to a certain extent.
Jesus. But I think we're scraping the barrel a bit, mate, there. If we're talking greatest Welsh players of all time. No disrespect to Robert, but I don't think he's in that tier, is he?
No, but you're talking about the last, 20, I'm referring to the last 20, 30 years maximum. You could go beyond that and people are a little bit...
I suppose the likes of Ian Rush and Mark Hughes, some would argue maybe, but to me, the reason why I separate Bale, if you put Giggs on his own and slightly, because like you said, what he achieved at club level with one club is so unprecedented that if you put him to one side for a minute, because I think there's two conversations, isn't there? If you're talking the greatest ever Welsh-born footballer, then Giggs is right up there. He's in that conversation. You can't ignore him. But if you're talking the best Welsh international of all time, then Gareth then goes way ahead. I know, Craig has said there, John Charles. Reese has said maybe John Charles, but he was never saw him, so it's difficult. It is difficult, isn't it?
My point, exactly. Yeah.
So my thing with the likes of Ian Rush, Dean Saunders, Gary Speed to a certain extent, Mark Hughes, even Bellamy. Who else? Neville Southall. It's my kind of, not my issue, but the reason why they kind of fade out of the conversation for me personally is because they failed at the last post in terms of international qualification. And look, some of those players, they had the chance, like they got to the very last kind of step, if you like, of before qualification, whether you're talking Mark Bowden's penalty miss or you're talking Mark Hughes's awful management in the two-legged game against Russia. Like those, they were close enough that I regard that as a failure, particularly the Russia one. Like that's one where I was old enough, I was going to games and stuff like that. And I remember when finding out we had Russia and thinking, well, we'll beat them over two legs. And then Robert Earnshaw played right wing and we had all these terrible tactics. And I don't know, it's difficult. Like to me, I think really Giggs is probably the only one who comes close. And even then, like I find it difficult because he didn't really do it for Wales. He's Welsh. But so the one thing I said just before you came on, Rob, about because I asked the question right at the start was, is he the greatest British player of all time? Which obviously is a bigger shout because you've got Steven Gerrard and Paul Scholes and Giggs again and all these different players. But the reason why I question whether he is the greatest British player of all time is because he's the only one who ever got near to Ronaldo and Messi in terms of stats and performances. He's the only one who became close. Neymar was supposed to be the guy, never came close. Griezmann did it 2 years, went to Barcelona, did absolutely sweet FA. Pogba never achieved what he should have. I know he hasn't retired, but he's not the kind of young footballer in his prime anymore. So that's why I said he never achieved. Like how talented he is and his physical attributes. He should have been the best midfielder on a planet by a mile, and he wasn't. I think like Luis Suarez, maybe you could argue, like from a stat point, like just goals scored. I think you could argue that his time at Liverpool, last couple of seasons at Liverpool, and then his initial couple of years at Barca, I think you could make an argument that he was up there with in terms of stats and goals scored. But I still don't think any other footballer came close to Messi and Ronaldo as Gareth Bale did. There was a point where it was Messi, Ronaldo, 1 and 2, and then it was Gareth Bale, and there was no doubt. Yes. And I also, I don't know if you heard, I said his injury record at Madrid is not as bad as what people think it is. Like, it gets exaggerated a bit, or he's always injured. I do agree, just before I get your take on all that, like Reece says, Griezmann's outstanding. I think because of Messi and Ronaldo, he's overlooked. Just look at the World Cup. Yeah, I agree with that. I think Griezmann is phenomenal. And I think the mistake he made was going to Barca. I actually think at the time when he left, he should have gone to United because his mate was there in Pogba and they played together for France. And I thought it was the best move. Like, they needed that player. Barca didn't need him. They just signed him because it was top players available. And actually, I think that hurt him because he went to Barcelona, he played out of position, and then he wasn't able to do what he could do. And you look at what he did for France in the World Cup, he was awesome. And he played a different role again. He was playing more like deep and stuff. But sticking with Bale quickly, mate, like, is he the greatest British player of all time? Like, who else is in the conversation for you?
Again, going based on my modern era, if you like, relatively modern era, I think the only person for me who would come close would be Rooney. Yeah,
I think Rooney's a massive shout because he did it. Do you know what I say about Rooney when people question him is even if he's not as skillful as a Giggs or a Bale or a Ronaldo, do you know what Rooney did? Is he played week in, week out from the age of 16 playing men's football all the way till when he retired at 36. He played every week.
Consistent
Very,
years.
yeah. And very, very rarely was he injured. Very, like, for a long period. He had that 1 foot injury. And I think other than that, he might have had a couple of niggles. I absolutely think that, like, Wayne Rooney would be the one where I'd be like, yeah, okay, I can accept that. But then it depends what you like, what you're basing it on, isn't it? Are you basing it on just ability? Are you basing it on, if you're doing like an overall thing of ability, stats, everything? Because I think if you're going to do it on, say, ability, right? There's, Paul Scholes, there's Gerrard, there's sorry, my throat's sore. Shearer, Lampard. There's all the, like, if you're just going on ability, like there's so many British players over the years who have been outstanding. Roy Keane could probably be in the conversation because of the impact that Roy Keane had on games and on the team as a whole. Like, how can you not have him in the conversation?
Not poo you there, but technically Republic of Ireland's not Britain.
I suppose you are right there. But you know what I mean, though, mate. It's like but I think Rooney would definitely be in the conversation. A couple of people have said like Ramsey be up there in the conversation for the Welsh greatest of all time. Now, if you're just talking about ability, I'd have Ramsey right up there next to Bale. And if you're talking about influence on the team, I'd have Ramsey probably even ahead of Bale, because I think Wales have always struggled more to replace Ramsey when he's out than they have when Bale's been out. Like, especially in the recent years, like with Dan James and Kiefer Moore and people like this, a couple of the other youngsters coming through, they've been able to work around Bale not playing every game. Whereas whenever Ramsey doesn't play, we look average because he links everything together. He's the creative force behind everything. And I feel like I said last season to Rhodri on one of the shows, like I think it was when he was linked with Newcastle in the January window. And I said, if Aaron Ramsey hadn't broken his leg, I believe he would have become one of the best midfielders in Europe, because he's shown it time and time again how good he is. That I don't think that's any doubt. But look, he just can't stay fit. And I honestly would be amazed if he's still playing football come the next Euros. And that makes me sad, because the thought of Wales without both of them is like, it's not the same. But
the next? Would you go to next then, mate? Would you think, to flip it maybe, who do you think is gonna be the one, like the new, not the new Gareth Bale or Ramsey? I hate people say that, but like the new. So,
what, like the new superstar, or do you just mean who's going to come into the team and replace him?
Who's going to be the daddy that's going to run through with him?
I don't think they're like first team players at the moment. Like, I think Ruben Corwell has the ability, but I don't know from what I've heard if he's got the mentality to really go and be the absolute best. Like, one of the things which drove Gareth Bale on is that he had this mentality that, like, he just, everything around him, he just couldn't, like, no one could just distract him. When he was at Spurs, like, that one season at Spurs, he started the season at left back, but, like, they were in the Champions League and he was ripping teams apart. He was like a scrawny kid, and people just couldn't see it. And obviously, as he got older, he filled out and he became like more in that Ronaldo build of like an athlete. But like, Gareth Bale's mentality is what drove him on, as well as his quality. Same as Rooney, like the mentality of him to just go and win football matches and produce when your team needs it against a big team, or when you're 1-0 down, or when you're going out of a cup, or, you know, whatever it may be, like just to turn up on the big stage and do something special. I think, you know, Bale, Rooney, they had that. Obviously, we don't know if Ruben Corwell will have that. We might. I'm not saying he doesn't, but he's not playing week in, week out. which is obviously there's some sort of reason behind that, whatever it may be. But I think he has the ability to do it.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I do apologise, mate. But like, well, people said, just to touch on Caldwell briefly. Well, people seem to have had an agenda that Morrison had an issue with Caldwell. Granted, he's just come back from injury, in fairness, so it remains to be seen what Hudson's going to do going forward. But like, even when he was fit, I don't think Hudson was playing him that often. The season ticket holders in the group will probably tell me otherwise, but I don't think that it seems to be too much of a coincidence, put it that way, that two back-to-back managers did not favour him as a starter.
Well, what I will say is, when I had Darren Pearce, who's obviously the under-23s or the academy manager, in the studio, and when I had Mark Hudson in the studio, they both spoke so highly of Ruben Caldwell in terms of his ability, and like the way he conducts himself. But also, I think it was Darren Pearce. Someone might be able to correct me if they've seen it. Either Darren Pearce or Mark Hudson. Obviously, Mark Hudson wasn't the Cardiff manager at the time; he was first-team coach. But I mean, they said that his brother is even better than him. Like, he's a phenomenal player. So, which is a scary thought. But like, also, he needs to play in position. He's not a midfielder. I think he's like a number 10 who's going to find those little gaps and create. And I think the problem with that, and this is something which I think is created by the likes of FIFA and the top managers and social media fans, is like number 10 now is like a separate thing, and it's not a striker and it's not a midfielder. So you almost, if you haven't got the right formation, you sacrifice, like, tactically, like you're either sacrificing a midfielder or a striker. And you look at some of the top teams now, like they're playing. So even let's look at United, for instance. They play Bruno, who's predominantly always been a midfielder. He's like the number 10 who just drifts around, and they play two older midfielders. And Cardiff have got to do that if they're going to get the best out of Ruben Caldwell. They've got to play him off Robinson as a number 10, or Isaac Davis, but they can't just shunt him out wide like England used to do to Paul Scholes, because it doesn't do anything, mate. Like,
I don't think he's got the pace to be a winner, is he? Really?
No, he hasn't. And at the end of the day,
don't get me wrong, but
like, if you use Paul Scholes as an example, England never got the best out of Paul Scholes because they constantly shunted him out to the left. Man United did, because they built their midfield around getting the best out of him. And I think if you've got these individuals who can create or do something quality, then you build your team or your tactics around allowing those players to do what they do. Sawyer's, like Reece said, has been fantastic in that deeper role. And like, you play Sawyer's and Rolls or Sawyer's and what's his face? Wintle. Is Wintle in it? No, am I thinking of? Is it Wintle? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get the best out of Ruben Caldwell. But in terms of Wales going forward, Brennan Johnson has the potential to go on and kick on. I think with Brennan Johnson, in terms of what you asked me was who's the next superstar, I think Brennan Johnson potentially could be that, depending on if he keeps progressing at Nottingham Forest, keeps scoring goals in the Premier League, and then he gets a big move, then he can absolutely be that guy. I think he has the ability to do it. If, like at the moment, he's in and out of the Forest side, not really getting the momentum of playing games, scoring goals, then I think that could almost harm him from that trajectory. But then I do think he's good enough. But then I said to you before the World Cup, mate, I think Dan James is good enough to be an exceptional forward for Wales and for a Premier League team. I thought he was a great signing for United when they signed him. His problem does seem to be not like a footballing problem. It seems to be a mental problem in terms of, like, he hasn't got the confidence or the belief in himself, and then that transfers to making the wrong decisions in those, in the final third, whether it's his finishing, or is the final pass. But in terms of his ability and his speed, I think he's got it. Like he interests me, Dan James does, because I think there's something there, but there's also something missing, and I don't quite, I can't quite put my finger on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's the end product. The end product is missing for it.
But that should be able to be coached, shouldn't it? And to me,
you think so?
Who was there when he signed for United? I think it was Van Gaal. Like Van Gaal, whatever you think of him, like he's exceptional coach.
Fantastic.
Well, he's been one of the best coaches in Europe over the years. Just done very well with the Dutch side. If he can't coach him, and then you've got Solskjaer, one of the greatest finishers the Premier League has ever seen. If he can't coach him to finish, and then he's gone to Leeds and whatever, and they can't coach him to do the final ball, then where's the problem? Like, there's got to be a problem somewhere which is causing that for me. And look, he's a young man. He's so young, Dan James is. I'm surprised how young he is still. So I think he's got potential. Could be a top player. But then you speak to anyone from the FAW, mate, or any of these Welsh coaches, or anyone involved at in and around like the Welsh scene, they all say the same thing. The 23s and the 18s, which are coming through now, are phenomenal. They're better than anything which has come through in the last 10 years. And when you think about that, that's remarkable, mate, that they've got that much confidence in what's coming through. The problem is how much of it is realistic and how much of it is bluster, because you want to say, all the money we're pumping into the youth setup is working. So I don't know. I guess we'll wait and we'll see.
Yeah, I think just be prepared. I think for the transitional period. I think that's the reality of it.
We thought that after the Euro 2016, didn't we? Or certainly when Giggs took over, I think it took him time, didn't it, to put his stamp on it, and he brought in youngsters and got rid of Hal Robson-Kanu and Ashley Williams and the rest of them. But I think now there's enough of the core squad who will still be around at least for a couple of years, Ben Davis at the back, and then you've got a mix of him, but then you've also got Cabango, and you've got Ampadu. To me, mate, is the one which I think
he's the captain, mate. He is Ampadu for me.
I think he should be the captain, but I don't know if they will give it. But then I think he should be the captain, and he should be the holding midfielder. He should be the first name on the team sheet. But they insist on playing him in defence.
I think I know there's no retire, but I don't think we'll see Big Wayne anymore. Gunter gone. I don't think we'll see Joe Allen. I'd be surprised if we see Ramsey put on a Welsh shirt again, mate. I think. But I think the next friendlies come around, I think there'll be a bit of a change in the guard. Of course, you'll have your Ben Davis. He will still be there. Joe Rodon, Conor Roberts, Harry Wilson, and that. But I would not be surprised if, your Hennessy's, your Ramsey's, your Joe Allen's are not near the squad. I would not be surprised at all.
I wouldn't pick them for the next couple of games anyway, regardless, because I would say, right, now this is your chance to show me what you've got. Yeah, and then I would say to Ramsey, Ramsey's 31. If he can go somewhere and play and stay fit, I still say he's got a lot to offer Welsh football and help the likes of Ruben Corwell and Purdue, Brennan Johnson and the rest of them just settle into playing regularly for their country. But it's one of them things, isn't it? You just don't know how it's going to go. Joe Allen looked like he was. Joe Allen was not fit in the World Cup and probably shouldn't have played. Let's be honest. Joe Allen. He was running in tar, and I love Joe Allen and everything he's done for Wales, but it was like a bridge too far. He was too. But to be fair, as much as there were certain things I thought that Robert Page got wrong in the World Cup, I did think he got some of it, particularly his in-game stuff. I actually think one of the things he got right was he played he kept Ampadu on in the holding midfield role, like almost as long as he could until he was literally running on fumes. And I thought that was the right decision. Like, but then in the next game, he brought Joe Allen on. Yeah, I don't know. Right. So, in one word, mate, is Gareth Bale the greatest British player of all time?
Yes.
There you go. So, as said by Robert Boyle.
It must be true that
Gareth Bale is the greatest. I want to quickly sort of talk about the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup and stuff, which has happened over the last week, mate. A few shocks in the FA Cup, mate. Wrexham flying. It's mad, mate. Wrexham is. I'd love to be a Wrexham fan, mate. Like, they must be loving life at the moment. They just got to be loving it. The football they play is phenomenal, mate. They concede so many, but it's like, yeah, we'll just score more than what you will, and it always seems to be like last minute winners and the rest of it. I was surprised to see Newcastle go out, mate. I got to be honest, but I think they were focused on the Carabao Cup, and when you look at how that Carabao Cup draw has opened up now, like, they probably were right to focus on that because that's a trophy they could win. Like, you look at that Carabao Cup, mate. Man City gone out, and Newcastle and Man United avoided each other in the semi-final draw. Like, if you're Eddie Howe and the Saudis, you're like, right, let's get a trophy. You've got to, mate. Like, regardless of whether people think, like, it makes me laugh, the League Cup, because if you go out of it, it's a Mickey Mouse thing, innit? But if you win it, it's a trophy. It's just one of them. But yeah, I was surprised to see them go out of the FA Cup. They lost to Sheffield Wednesday. That I like that Josh Windass, mate. I do. Who scored a couple. He could have had a hat trick. He hit the bar of the free kick. I really do like him, and I don't think it'll be too long till a Premier League team picks him up. But I mean, a few Premier League teams struggled. Tottenham sort of struggled against Portsmouth. Leeds struggled against Cardiff. I thought Cardiff were excellent. Look, I don't want to be that guy who slags off fans and stuff, but like these people who were like slagging Hudson off because Leeds come back from 2-0 down, it's like, come on, mate. Like, you've just watched Cardiff finally play well. They've scored a couple of goals finally. They've got Isaac Davis back and a couple of other players who've really stepped up. Like, focus on that. Don't be like, I just don't get the negativity all the time. I really don't. It found it interesting actually that Mark Hudson said that he'd spoken to the owners and the Neil Warnock rumours was, bullshit or whatever, which normally means that he's going to get sacked a couple of days later and Neil Warnock will be in charge. But I don't know. It is what it is, mate.
See what the game happens on the weekend, mate.
Yeah, look, I hope that if they could take that form into the championship, I think they've got a good chance, mate, of winning some games. But also, do you know what else, mate? Is I think it wasn't just the performance. It wasn't just having certain players back and stuff. The thing which pleased me the most was tactically, particularly in the first sort of hour or so, I thought Mark Hudson got a spot on. And I think a couple of times he's played about with tactics and stuff like that. But Mark Hudson got his spot on against Leeds. The man with the flat tyres just arrived. Let's bring Rodders in now. You there, mate, or not? Rhodri!
Do you want me to jump outside?
No, just see where he is now. See what he's in. Here he is, Mr. Flat Tire Man. You right, Rhodri?
Yeah, mate.
Yes, mate. Rob jumped in to talk. So we've just been talking about Gareth Bale, mate, for 40 minutes.
Okay.
So we're just kind of just a quick question for you. Obviously, you're a bit older than us, and particularly me. You're much older than me. What about Gareth Bale? Like, obviously, I don't think there's any debate that he's the greatest Welsh player of all time, or Welsh international of all time. We decided there was a difference between greatest Welsh-born player of all time and greatest Welsh international of all time. Is he the greatest British player of all time?
It's an argument, isn't it? Him and Wayne Rooney. I think we do a disservice to players like George Best, Bobby Charlton.
Yeah.
These players of the past as well. Gazza.
Yeah, it's like recency bias, isn't it?
Yeah. People
100%.
forget, see. People forget.
We can only call it on what we've seen recently, though, I think, isn't it?
Recently. Well, recently. Wayne Rooney's recently, so...
Yeah, that's what Rob said. Rooney was like the
What you've got to think about is he's had a great career or not, but he started at Southampton. He was left back at Tottenham. He was on the bench for a year. They couldn't win a game away from home when Gareth Bale played in the side.
Yeah,
and then he went on to become the Gareth Bale. Now Wayne Rooney was a superstar from he was 16 to the end of his career.
Yeah.
So
and funny enough, that's what my point with Rooney was not only did he play from 16 to 36 or whatever he played, but he played week in, week out at that level at all times. Even when he fell out with Fergie, he was still scoring goals. Even when he had that thing where Phil Bardsley knocked him out, he still scored goals. Even when he had the thing with the granny and all that, he still scored goals. No matter what was going on, he still scored goals. And I just think he only had one really serious injury. That consistency over time is unheralded, really. But then in terms of what we said was, if you're talking best Welsh international of all time, then Gareth Bale is.
There's not even an argument, is there?
He's miles away. But if you're talking best Welsh, Welsh footballer or whatever, then obviously your brother's in there. You can't if someone's won everything and one club and literally just won everything, but not only that, consistency, changed his position when he got older. You can't forget that, and I think it's kind of one of them things. I wanted to ask you, mate. Well, actually, just before you sort of came on, we were just talking about Newcastle. They went out of the FA Cup on Saturday to Sheffield Wednesday, but I said I wondered whether they were focused on the quarter-final of the Carabao Cup, because if you look at how that draw in the semi-final has opened up for Newcastle and Man United particularly, but obviously there's 4 teams in it. But Ten Hag and Eddie Howe will be licking their lips at that. They've stayed apart. Man City are out. It's there. That's a trophy. It's Mickey Mouse when you go out of it, but it's a trophy when you stay in. It's just the way it is, isn't it? But
it's call it a Mickey Mouse Cup, but it's only that if you if you go out, it's a good cup run. It's and it's a chance for France to go to Wembley. United haven't been there for a bit. Newcastle haven't been there for a long while. Newcastle haven't won thing for a long time. So if he can win something there, then he'll be lauded there. But it's still tough fixture though. I'd still fancy us with over one game, possibly, but 2 games. Can't see us getting beat over 2 games. Newcastle, Southampton. If Southampton played like they did last night, then they've got a chance, but I'd still fancy Newcastle.
Yeah, I think it'll be a Newcastle. Go on, Rob.
Would Eddie Howe have failed this season if he don't get a trophy, do you reckon?
No. I think he's overachieving at the minute. I think I think the Newcastle fans have been in the doldrums for so long. They're just happy to be competing and to be near finals, and they eat and breathe and sleep football over there, don't they? So I don't think if he gets them to the final, then no, it'd be a day out for them. They're in the mix and they'll be happy with that. Yes, they'll be gutted about it if they do get beaten and get to the final, but they've got a massive chance, big chance.
They'll say a lot about the owners, I think, won't they?
Here you go.
Where they pull the trigger if Eddie doesn't come away with a trophy this season and they finish outside top 6 or wherever, and they pull a trigger on him, I think that will say a lot about where that club's going to go going forward.
Yeah, definitely. But also, I think if he was able to win the Carabao Cup, that will buy him time. That will buy him a bit more time than perhaps he will get otherwise. But also, if you look at Ten Hag United, if he can get that trophy in the bag 6 months after he's come in, the turnaround is so quick and so great from where they were at the end of last year that I think that can have a similar effect. So it's fascinating. And then, which I want to talk about next, is Chelsea are literally just buying everyone. So there you go. Like,
and they still can't win a game.
Well, and they still can't win a game, but I think, look, they're drawing with Fulham. They've equalised.
Oh, there's a draw. They scored, have they? Just chat.
Yeah, Koulibaly just scored. So they've signed João Felix from Atletico Madrid. They signed the other guy, I forgot his name, the striker who's coming in at the end of the season. Like, at what point does it become ridiculous? Like, they've got so many players again. Like, do you remember last year, a few years ago, Rhodri, when they had like 45 players out on loan, didn't they? And everyone used to sort of mock it.
Well, this is what Chelsea of old used to do. Remember Bale, Rudullit, all these big names. They were just a cup team now, and then Jose Mourinho come and changed it round. But yeah, there just seems to be just buy him, get him, and just there you go. But that can't be the case with this manager. I'm sure it can't. But they've obviously given him what he wants or what he needs, because they spent 200 million and they sacked the manager.
Yeah. Well, did you see that comment this week? Someone from within the club said that if people knew the truth about why Thomas Tuchel was sacked, they would understand it, which I found quite interesting, because obviously no one really understands, do they? We don't give a manager that much money and then just sack him when he's doing all right.
Yeah.
But like I said to you last week, mate, I think it's the wrong fit for Graham Potter, not necessarily the wrong fit for Chelsea. And I'm not convinced that he's the one who's got a say in signing these players. But they've signed, they're signing all these players. It's very difficult to blood and gel all these players all in one. Mate, Reese has got a question for you, Rhodri. He says, as a sub, what's it like coming onto the pitch after 70 or 80 minutes? Is it easier because you're up against a tired defence, or is it hard because you have to try and get up to the speed of the game?
It depends. It depends. Depends if you're drawing or winning. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, I used to like coming on. Well, obviously, you used to hate being sub, but which was not a lot. But when I was, if I come on, then yeah, you have to make you're sub for a reason. So you don't want to be sub, so you have to show the manager that why he's putting you on, and I always found them. Yeah, it was easier for me when I come on 60, 70 minutes because they were tired and slowing down. Yeah. Yes, to answer your question, yeah.
Interesting. Did you watch the Cardiff Leeds game, Rhodri?
I did actually, yeah.
What did you make of it?
Yeah, it was a good game. It was unlucky in the end. But then they could have lost it in the end. But no, it was gutting now. Gutting to
cup time.
Yeah, it was great cup time. It's a great ground that. It's full like that. You've got what 5,000-6,000 Cardiff to make it a bit of a better balance than what you usually get as if it was 2,000 or 3,000. So yeah, it was a proper cup game, proper good atmosphere, and they were unlucky in the end, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought Isaac Davis being back for Cardiff is massive. Like, if they can get him firing, because in terms of his development, I feel like he is miles ahead of some of the other younger players like Harris and even Corwell, I'd say. Like, Isaac Davis looks ready to play week in, week out, and he ran leads all over the place. But obviously, first game back, he looked a bit tired by the time he went off. But hopefully, Hudson can get, like, if they play like that in the league, they'll have a nice, comfortable, enjoyable end to the season because they played well. But their form in the championship has been epically bad, shall we say. Carabao Cup, right, Rob, who's going to win the Carabao Cup for you? And Forest play United over 2 legs in the semi-final, and then Southampton play Newcastle.
Newcastle.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, I'm going Newcastle. Newcastle United final. I think Newcastle do them.
So it's interesting. I think I do think that it'll be a United Newcastle final. I think that's pretty nailed on. Obviously, you never know, dude. Like Southampton just beat Man City 2-0, so you can't doubt them. But Newcastle have been very good this year. They'll be a bang up for it. And I think 10
first team to play them. I think United won't play their first team.
I mean, they will. I think if you look at even the last sort of 10 games that Ten Hag has played, and they've had loads of games in close succession, he's played a very, very strong team, and he's just rotated one or two. And I just think you want to win a trophy, and I think they should beat Forest, but they've just got to be careful because Forest do have a few decent players. But Rhodri, I wanted to speak to you about Ten Hag. They've signed this striker, the Dutch boy who scored 2 against Argentina in the World Cup. It's very much a stopgap signing, but like from what you've seen since last week, so obviously we did the show Thursday. They played Everton Friday, won pretty comfortably. Frank Lampard's got to be on the verge of being sacked, I'd imagine. And
he's had the vote of confidence today by the chairman.
Well, he'd be gone by Monday. Be gone by Monday then. And then obviously they comfortably beat Charlton. It looked more comfortable by the end, but they did have a lot of chances. Like, what has Ten Hag done because he has, no matter like what you say, he's turned United around drastically in 6 months. Like, why is it so different?
She's obviously got a winning mentality and a good philosophy. We've seen that in the past where he's been, changed it very quickly. Where he was at his previous club, and then at Ajax when he went to Ajax. Can't remember the first club he went to, some Eagles or something like that. But he turned them round. He's done it with Ajax, and now he's doing it with United. So if it was any other manager, I'd be like this player, but I just totally trust the manager and what he's doing. He's not missed a beat. Handled the Ronaldo situation really well. Marcus Rashford is just a total different player. Now, if anyone's telling me that's not down to the manager, then I'll tell them to shut up because it's totally down to the manager.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Breathing confidence in him, bringing Benny McCarthy in to help him out, which is obviously helping him out. And he just looks like a different player. Looks like the player that we imagine he should be. This forward coming in, I just think it's support. It's another striker to put up there. I think Martial will still be the main striker, or Rashford, and he'll get a game here or there, or he may surprise and play a lot and get an hatful because he's a centre forward. If you stick him in the box, then he scores goals. You've seen that in the World Cup. So, like I say, trust the manager, whatever he's doing, because he's not missed a beat so far.
The way United play, I actually think that Weghorst is going to end up scoring like 10, 12 goals by the end of the season.
Yeah, he could do.
I was looking at some highlights of him the other day. He's actually a very, very good finisher. But what he also has is he's got a very similar mentality to like Martinez.
Yeah.
And the way he's come in, Anthony, they got a bit of nastiness in him and a bit of passion. And I think when you look at the quality that he's brought, you can't argue with.
I think people are like what's the right word?
They think he's a donkey, mate. I've seen so many people say he's a donkey.
He played for Burnley. He's a Dutch international.
He fell out with the Burnley players a week after he joined, and that's why he ended up not playing and going. He still scored a couple of goals, not many, but he fell out with the whole team apparently. So it's like. All right.
Well, these Dutch players have got that about them, haven't they? They've got that kind of arrogance about them.
It was the Dutch player who used to fall out with people all the time. Was it Bergkamp or was it? No, it was
Van Hooijdonk.
That's the one. Yeah, he was just a nightmare. Everywhere he went, he was just like fall out with everyone. Good finisher though.
That's why he always got a club because he could score goals. Oh, Chelsea got a man sent off.
Good. They've really rubbed me up the wrong way, Chelsea have, because I feel like they're signing players they don't need, and that just bugs me. And
well, they need a centre forward. So this João Felix, they need him.
But he's yeah. But that's what is my thing, right? João Felix is not a centre forward. He's more of like a Rashford or even a Bruno. Like he's not an out and out centre forward. They've got Pierre Van Hooijdonk on the bench, who now is in a position he can't play for anyone except Chelsea or Barcelona. Aubameyang, yes, sorry. He can't play for Chelsea or Barcelona. Like they're the only two teams. Sorry, he can play for. He can't play for anyone else.
Anyone buying him, he's just a bad egg. Look into the stuff that he's doing at Arsenal. Yeah, I just need to look at his car that he drives and think he's a knobhead. He's just a bell end.
But it doesn't beat Dele Alli's pink Rolls Royce.
Well,
did you see his what's that program on MTV?
Cribs.
Cribs, isn't it? He done a Cribs on it during lockdown. Fucking hell. Jesus Christ.
He's a character. But you did say, Rhodri, at the start of the season when United were sort of looking around for players, you wouldn't be devastated if he had gone to United as a striker. Like, I just think his attitude stinks and it's going to just spread very quickly.
If you haven't got strong characters in the dressing room, 100%.
Then, like Reece has just made a very good point. He said that João Felix, the reason he fell out with Diego Simeone is because his attitude absolutely stinks. So, like, and this is my thing with Graham Potter. This is why I'm not sure it was right for him to go to Chelsea. Is can you see Aubameyang or some of these big name players from around Europe? Are they going to listen to Graham Potter? And I don't think that they will. But what Graham Potter's got to do,
that's bad. That's bad. Like, they can't be doing that. The professional footballers, just because his name's Graham Potter doesn't mean what.
But how many times have we seen him edit over the years?
That's a poor mentality if they're thinking like that, mate.
We've seen it at United under Solskjaer. There was people who weren't listening to him, and I think
no. They weren't listening to him. Solskjaer was too soft. That was his problem. It's not that they weren't listening to him. He was too soft. Plain and simple. You could see that. Look where he's come in with an iron fist, discipline, not taking no shit. Boom. It was too soft. It was there. I'm trying to be better like Alex Ferguson. There was fucking no chance because he's not. He's just not the same character. Just not the same character. Don't get me wrong. They're both winners, but they're different. Different in many ways.
I'd love to know what Aubameyang was up to at Arsenal. Like, I haven't seen that. I'm gonna have to have a look at that because Reece just said on the Amazon documentary they had Arteta's mic on, and he said he's got a file full of all the stuff that Aubameyang has done. Like, so, like, he's a bad egg, him. And my thing is, Graham Potter's got to do what Ten Hag did with Ronaldo. If it's Aubameyang, if it's Felix, if it's whoever it is, it doesn't matter if it's the best player in the team or a youngster. He's got to stamp his authority and take no shit, and he has to do it.
I've been looking at the person who brought him in first. Why are you bringing him in today? Yeah. Mind you, Tuchel won it. He wanted him because he had a relationship with him.
He brought Aubameyang in, didn't he? And then obviously Potter's brought in Felix.
Now he's stuck with him.
Yeah. Rye says, congratulations to Rhodri Giggs joining Darwin FC as first team coach.
Yeah.
Oh, well done, mate.
Stephen, it's Darwin with an E.
Is it?
Yeah. But yeah, it was my first training session last night.
So how was that?
It was all right. It's good.
Back in the coaching game. You're still coaching the kids though as well?
Yeah, I've just cut back. Well, that's what I got a flat tire on the way back from. Fucking went to do a shortcut, and this road is just pothole hell. Oh, fuming.
So what did you, when you went to that first session yesterday, did you know any of the team beforehand, or was it just fresh?
I knew a couple of them. Obviously, I know the manager because I've known him for 15 years. I played with him, and then when I was manager, he was my captain. So, yeah, I know a couple of them. But I've been down to watch them before because it's only 15 minutes from my house. So, yeah, but they're doing well at the minute. They're 6 unbeaten, and they've got home game Saturday. So, yeah, nice little ground, nice little clubhouse. Yeah, it's good.
What's their thinking in bringing in Rhodri Giggs then, do you think?
They just need help. They just need help. They've just been two for a long time, and and it's just Alex that does the coaching. Kenny's the manager. We don't really get involved in the coaching. Leads also Alex. So I'm just helping Alex out, really. I'm just helping hand, a bit of experience.
So how will you deal with an Aubameyang-like player?
Fucking get out. See you later. Get out. Get out. You and your fucking mirrored Lamborghini. Do what?
Is that what he's got? A mirrored Lamborghini, is it?
Yeah, it's bell end.
Yeah, I don't know which one I prefer.
Look at me. I'm the flashiest fucking knobhead in the world. Look at me hair. Look at me fucking orange tracksuit. Look at me fucking yellow trainers. We can see you, mate. Don't worry about it.
Can't miss you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Like these people. I don't know, a very interesting one. No surprise that Chelsea are also linked with him, but that Kyle Walker-Peters has been linked with Southampton. From Southampton to United if they get rid of Wan-Bissaka in the January window.
I'd be surprised if Pep didn't have a look at him because he had a front row seat yesterday and he was
ripped him to pieces, didn't he?
Yeah, really good, quick, tenacious. Yeah, really good. Didn't give anyone a sniff.
I think it's absolutely mental, by the way, that none of these clubs, more Premier League clubs, are not looking at that Marcus Thuram, the French player.
Rico Henry as well for Brentford, left back, really good.
But like Marcus Thuram, for a striker who's just been, in a World Cup final, is like 15 million euros he's going for, and at the moment it seems like only Chelsea are talking to him. Which,
he's another one.
You never know those sides, do you? You're saying apparently you never know. These agents just haven't got one team left of them.
No, that's very true. These agents are fucking talking to everyone.
Especially when you're French international, you're not going to have one team after you.
You'd think so, but then Chelsea are speaking. Chelsea is speaking to everyone, isn't they?
Pardon?
Chelsea are just speaking to everyone, I reckon.
Yeah.
It's got like a group chat with all the footballers. Rob, what were we going to say, Rob, about Thuram?
No, apparently that Thuram's got an attitude problem as well. Because there was a thing during during COVID when all the grounds were empty, whatever, and COVID was mental, and he spat at some player, didn't he?
Oh, was it?
And he got in a little Tommy Pickle over it. And apparently it's like it's an ongoing thing. He's got a bit of a temper about him, put it that way. So Reece just said there he spat in the face of an opposition player.
Oh, what an horrible French fucker.
Right in prime COVID time as well, Rodgers.
Oh,
yeah, that's not good, is it? But it's like it's one of them things, right? All these players have got an attitude problem until they get a manager who they get on with or they understands them or whatever. Like,
mate, it's not always the case. Some of them just got a bad eggs.
Yeah, but like you look at Cantona, mate. He was unmanageable to a certain extent, and then Fergie kind of gave him a bit of leeway, and he still had a few issues.
But you got to understand, Ferguson was a really experienced manager, and he treated him differently from everyone. I mean, everyone. It pissed everyone off, but they accepted it because he was professional. He turned up. He won games. So they understood it, and he kind of was that next step for United going to that next level.
Yeah. What did he very quickly? What did he like? How did he treat him differently to other players then? Because if he always turned up and the training and the rest of it.
Yeah. Black tie do, club do, make sure everyone's dressed. Pro plate there. So someone will come in like brown shoe or a different tie or whatever. He'd go fucking mad. Eric turns up, fucking suit on, white t-shirt, white trainers, and he'd pull him all in front of the lads and go, "See, lads, this is style. This is style." What? Everyone would be spewing.
Love it. But then,
little cappuccino drinking like his wife, and was like, what? So that's the kind of
I like that. But then Reece says there, right? He says when Warnock was at QPR, that's what he did with Adel Carabo. Yeah, he just let him
Crystal
have...
Palace.
No one was allowed to tackle him.
Crystal Palace, they've come in. Brucey's done something wrong at half time or something, and they go in, and Brucey's going, fucking hell, I'm glad fucking Eric's done that. I'm not going to fucking. So he's coming at half time, or coming fucking blasting Brucey, and turned to Eric and gone, Eric, you can't do that, son. You can't do it. And then just fucking blast. Just that's the kind of thing he'd fucking hammer in, like Arcade, Butty, or anyone else, but turned. Eric, you can't do that, son. Nice, calm accent.
Give him a little.
Then you see Eric go, Eric, your friend.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
But then it worked, didn't it? And I think
the
other players
putted someone in the fucking crowd, and you think, he's gonna go sick here.
Oh, mate,
Eric, you can't do that, son.
What was yeah, come on, mate. Why? Yeah, and then Steve Bruce gets the blame for not stopping him.
He done something daft on the pitch, but nothing. He has 2-footed someone in the head and then fucking punched him.
Yeah, that was mental. That still is one of the most mental things I've ever seen on a football pitch. Like just
when the Seagulls follow the trot.
That was his response. Right, to finish up,
because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea.
What a man! He was there. He was at Old Trafford the other day, wasn't he, for a game?
Yeah.
So we'll just do our predictions quickly for Saturday to finish off some big games. This one could be interesting. So Rob, you can get involved as well. We'll go. Rhodri, you go first. Brighton.
Fulham scored.
Go on, Fulham. Brighton home to Liverpool. I'm going 2-1 to Brighton.
2-0 Liverpool.
What about you, Rob? What you got there?
3-1 Liverpool.
Yeah, you bottlers.
I'm going to see if he changes that.
I don't think so. No need to. Brighton are on fire. Liverpool are dreadful. May take more than one game for you to catch up with me. No. Nottingham Forest home to Leicester. I've gone 1-1. Rhodri, you go first, mate. Forest home to Leicester.
Did Leicester play this week? Didn't they?
Yeah, they lost yesterday, didn't they, to someone?
Yeah, Newcastle. Forest. Was it Newcastle?
I can't remember, mate.
Newcastle.
Yeah, because Forest won on penalties, didn't they?
Yeah.
So yeah, Forest, Leicester. I've gone 1-1. Rodri's got.
And we're all Leicester 2-1.
Rob.
1-0 Forest.
1-0. Wolverhampton Wanderers at home to West Ham. I've gone 2-1 to Wolves because I've been quite impressed since the new manager came in with them. They don't score too many, but they scored a couple, mate, after you said they wouldn't score.
West Ham need a win. West Ham need a win. 1-0.
God, do they? West Ham need a win or they're going to be down there with Everton. Rob, Wolves, West Ham.
0-0. That's got 0-0 written all over it.
Good shout, that. Good shout.
Brentford versus...
late winner by Antonio.
How's that we going with?
Brentford versus Bournemouth. I've gone 2-1 to Brentford.
1-0. 1-0. Dingles to lose. Who's the Dingles?
I don't know. Rob, who you got? Brentford, Bournemouth.
2-0 Brentford.
And then finally, Newcastle versus Fulham. Newcastle at home. I've gone 3-1 Newcastle.
When's that? Sunday. So
yeah,
is it at Newcastle that?
Yeah, 2:00.
Yeah, Fulham play here, travel up there. 2-0 Newcastle.
Yeah, I gone 3-1 Newcastle. Who you got, Robert?
Yeah, I got 3-1 Newcastle. I think they'll be puffed out after tonight.
And then finally, Spurs at home to the league leaders Arsenal. North London derby, 4:30, Super Sunday. I've got 3-2 to Arsenal.
Ooh,
Spurs
where to?
At Spurs. Spurs been shit lately.
2-2.
2-2.
Oh, a bit of a Desmond 2-2, is it?
There we go. Come on, Arsenal on fire.
2-1
Can't be after Spurs. Rubbish. Ooh, there we go. Arsenal for the win. last question then. Will Arsenal bottle it? When will Arsenal bottle it?
Yeah.
When?
Yeah. March, April.
Yeah, I said last week, I think if United take 4 points or more from City and Newcastle, City and Arsenal games, which is their next 2 games, and I think United are banging the race for the title. I don't give a shit if it's his first season, because the reason I think it's all going to fall into place for him, if they get those results, like if they beat City and draw with Arsenal, for instance, I just think Arsenal will falter. Man City just cannot seem to get that run.
I'd rather
going
draw with City and beat Arsenal.
Well, I think when Arsenal lose,
take them back.
Yeah, well, I think Arsenal could lose to Spurs, mate. Because it's just one of them games.
Well,
and I just think
Derby's the game, mate. It could be anyone's going to.
Yeah.
Unless it's Cardiff Swans, we know Swans is going to win that.
Yeah, well, it's like that's like the most nailed-on result ever, isn't it? Like
Cardiff,
Cardiff,
going to win one this
Cardiff
year.
South.
We're going to win one this year.
No, they never win a South Wales derby, mate.
Fucking joke.
Just turn up every day. But like that United Man City game is fascinating. Just very quickly, do you think United can get their 3 points there, mate?
United, it's back in like 10 years ago. City have got to be bang at it. Well, City don't have to be bang at it. United have to be bang at it, and City have to be average to win. So, but if United are at it and City are at it, it's going to be a really good game. But yeah, if City and United both are here, you've got to red City. But it's going to be a good game. But City have got to be at it. If they're not and United are, we'll do them.
So Craig just asked the question. So if United were to take no points from those 2 games, would that be the end of them? Well, yeah. If they take no points from those games, they will not be in the title race.
It'll be the end of the league.
Yeah. Any chance of winning the league? I just think psychologically, if they were to get 2 good results against those 2 teams, the way the season seems to be panning out, and the way United are playing, the form they're in, and just a mentality change, I just think that you'd be stupid to just say, "Oh, it's too soon." Like I just think it, football's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't realise that the Chelsea player who got sent off was João Felix on his debut. 58 minutes. Jesus, got a bad attitude, haven't he?
Fucking hell. 8 million.
You get a 30-day return.
Well,
and you get a receipt.
How much they pay? 8 million for 4 months or whatever.
He's making 4 substitutes.
Yeah, not surprised. Rob, nice one, mate, for jumping in at the start. Enjoyed talking Gareth Bale. Appreciate you jumping in last minute. Rhodri, come on, get the AA on the case.
Yeah, I know.
Sort the tyres out. Watch out for the potholes.
Fucking dot roads out.
Nice one, lads. Cheers to everyone. Later.
Cheers, fellas.